I've been eating glass for 30 years now. It never ends, does it?
Everything that you get in a professional sporting environment comes to an abrupt end, and the next month that salary check isn't there.
I spent most of my life in that phase, and it's always a challenge.
I think I was 38 and business was going good, and I said to myself, what is your purpose?
It's finding a true north, and that purpose is so important.
But at the closing ceremony, we just kind of looked at each other and said, that was unbelievable. How can we do that again?
Welcome to Winning the Away Game. If you enjoy stories about South Africans who take sport, business and second chapter seriously, please subscribe. Today we are joined by Gary Boddington and Wayne Fyvie. Gary represented South Africa in the 1996 Olympic Games and went on to build businesses across data, business, intelligence, blockchain and sports technology. And he's already an idol of mine because he lives in one of the most beautiful ski resorts in British Columbia. Wayne played 3 tests for South Africa back in 1996, captained the Sharks, and now leads work around office efficiency, sustainability, and disabled employment through the Green Office and Greenable. This episode is about what happens after the national jersey, how sports discipline becomes useful in the rest of life. Wayne, Gary, welcome. Flip, are you ready for a great conversation?
Justinas, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Looking forward to this. Wayne is a guy that I became to love and hate at the same time, as he was part of that wonderful Sharks team that just beat every team that I always loved. Gary, Wayne, welcome very much. Where are you guys joining us from?
Thank you. Good morning. I'll start, Wayne, because I'm furthest away, if that's okay.
Exactly.
I'm based in a place called Sun Peaks in British Columbia in Canada. So I spent 10 years in Vancouver, and then we left the big city and moved up to the mountains. So, yeah, it's a place called Sun Peaks. It's a ski resort, and we just love living up here.
And, I'm actually sitting in the most beautiful place called Umdloti, which is just outside Durban. I left school and got stuck here, and I'm not moving.
Not giving up the dream yet, Wayne.
Not at all. I love it.
It's great to have you both on. As Justina said in the intro, both legends of Springboks, both in athletics and in rugby, whatsoever, and then both converted into very successful careers afterwards. And we'll get into that just in a moment. We've got a little bit of a tradition on the show, where we ask each guest to share this favorite Springbok memory with us. Wayne, I'll let you go second because Gary's will be a little bit less obvious.
Yeah, so if we're talking Springbok rugby, it's got to be the Nelson Mandela and the number 6 shirt handing the trophy to Francois Pienaar. I have got, like every South African fan, I've got lots of great memories, but nothing can top Nelson Mandela handing Francois Pienaar the trophy for me.
Where were you watching that from?
I was actually in Durban. I was watching on TV.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, Wade?
I suppose the first the answer is easy, is obviously representing your country and having the privilege of obviously running on, and that memory will obviously be there, and no one can ever take it away from you, which is special. But I think just a quick prelude to that memory, I was obviously sitting on the bench, and I'll never forget, I went and had a vitamin B injection. And in those days, it was just to give you a bit of a boost, and it was just Andre Joubert came over to me and said, like, why are you having the injection? You're only on the bench. So are you doing it because you want to have a party later, or is it just because you need energy for the game? So I thought that was quite funny, but I was more nervous than anything. I think that's why I had it.
And your first game was at Loftus, right?
Correct.
Hey, at least we share a fond memory of Loftus then, I hope.
Well, actually, that wasn't the fondest of memories, but because we lost the second test to the All Blacks, and I was part of that, which was very sad, but still a great privilege and honor to be out there.
I remember that day. I think I was there. US scored a try in the northeast corner, and we should have won that game, man. Oh,
Yeah, exactly. There are lots of those where I think Zinze and Brook put a drop goal over from the 10-yard line, and I think there were 2 points in it. So yeah, these things sometimes are just not meant to be.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit, when you preluded a little bit in your intro. You went to Durban and never left. Tell us a little bit, a quick summary of the story. You went to school up until playing Springboks. What was life in Durban like?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, maybe it is actually quite a good story, to be honest, because I was still at school and I went to Hilton College, fortunately to go to a school that my dad's got no more money left because he paid for my education. But I think it was quite a good story because I was actually on my way to Valhalla and that is actually why the Blue Bulls were so strong and have always been so strong, is that if you played Craven Week and your army service was literally a trip to Valhalla, and you would be that's your post, because that's where the recruitment started. And I think at that stage, Natal Rugby thought they need to really do something about keeping their players local. And Flip, you might not know, but there used to be a thing called a Ticky box, and I got a message.
Still got it.
and I had to go to the Ticky box. So I arrived at the Ticky box, and they said this guy by the name of John Winton. He called. Now, obviously, I said, "Hello, Mr. Winton. How are you?" And he said, "My boy, what are you doing next year?" So I said, "Sir, I'm actually going to the army." So he said, "Well, I tell you what, why don't you come and play rugby in Durban, and we'll give you a bursary to do some studying at Technikon Natal." And I thought to myself, army or a bursary to Technikon Natal was an easy decision. And since then, haven't looked back. And yeah, I think was part of a rebirth of Natal Rugby at that stage.
Yeah, definitely, very much. So there's an interesting part, and you can answer it the way you want, but you obviously made your debut in 1996, part of the 1995 Sharks Currie Cup team, that won it.
Yeah.
So you must have had a sniff there, close to that World Cup squad. What was the communication like back in those days? Did you feel you could have been, what could have been, what could have not been?
Yeah, I must say it was quite funny, and I share the story because my first cap, I went on and actually recall Joost high-fiving Joost and Joost saying to me, "You deserve this." So it was quite a big thing coming from a Blue Bull. So I was quite comfortable. But then I went back to the Natal change room on the Monday, because obviously that's what happened. And old Adrian Garvey kind of said to me, he said, "Hey, Fives, well done, boy, on your cap and your first cap." And I think I played like 20 minutes in the first game. So I said to him, well, it was only 20 minutes. And he said to me, "Well, your grandchildren will never know, so don't worry about that." So, yeah, it was really lucky just to get, that type of feedback from a player. And it actually is that. I think once you have represented your country, and I think the journey for me was one of a peak and then a lot of injury and a lot of, when I say kind of highs and lows, and at all of those steps, you would know, Flip, is to get selected and not selected is always going to be a tough thing. Someone's got to be left out, and I say it, I don't know how Rassie's managing it right now, because yes, there must be some very upset people, but for whatever reason, they seem to be keeping it right. And then coaches change, and I think I went through a few coaches, and I must say, old Andre Markgraf, I mean, he went through a thing that was quite a political time, and the press reversed it on me when I was captaining the midweek side, and it, like, all of those things that you deal with are things that, like, a lot of people don't see, things that hit the front of the press, and I was like, flip, I didn't say that, but it was like something that I did say that was what was obviously changed. And I think, for me, I suppose all of those things help you learn in life and learn as you go through the process. I mean, at that age, another really funny thing, and I know this is maybe not all about being funny, but, you talk about people doing interviews, and we played in, I think it was Buenos Aires, we played against Mendoza, and there was an Afrikaans commentator, and his name eludes me right now, but he came to me afterwards and said, do you mind just doing a little bit of Afrikaans, in Afrikaans, And I come from a small town called Harrismith, and I thought, well, you know what, I've got this. I promise you I can handle this. But they say your brain freezes when under pressure, and my brain certainly froze. And I promise you, I don't know what I stumbled out. but if that ever made D-News, then I'm surprised it hasn't been. Yeah.
That's awesome, mate. Gary, and you also had your start in sport. Tell us a little bit about that background. Where did you grow up? How did you end up in sport and end up in Atlanta in 1996?
Yeah, interesting. I haven't been through that for a while. So I was born in Cape Town, grew up in Johannesburg, and then moved to Durban for my last kind of 3 years of schooling. My parents were transferred to Durban, and finished school, and then ended up going to university at University of Natal. I played sport in Johannesburg. Ironically, I grew up, right now I'm sitting, there's an ice rink about 500 meters away from me, a full NHL ice rink. And on the West Rand in Johannesburg, some people from those days might remember at Horizon View, that's where I grew up. There was a NHL ice rink there. So I actually grew up playing ice hockey, but I played soccer and cricket and rugby and everything at school like everybody else. But my greatest passion was ice hockey, funny enough. And then I moved to Durban, and Durban was kind of the Natal team was a really good team at the time. Back in those days, there was not as much AstroTurf as there is around now. So 1985 was the very first AstroTurf in South Africa at Queensmead in Durban. So it ended up kind of, and the ice rink and the setup for ice hockey in Durban wasn't that strong. So I pivoted into field hockey and indoor hockey and kind of played more field hockey. And so I just progressed through the ranks there. Played in the Natal schools until under 21. I also had the same thing with SADF. I got called up to the army. I did go to Voortelijke Hoogte for 2 years in the military there. Well, actually, my 2 years became 1 year then, and eventually they scrapped it. So, but same thing as Wayne said, I really just played hockey for 2 years, which was great. I ran the sports office in Pretoria. And then, just stayed involved in hockey. At the time, we were isolated still. And I went to London and I played with a team over there called Southgate. Played there for kind of 2 seasons. The captain and a few of the guys in that team were Great Britain, the captain of Great Britain players. And then 92 and then 91, things were opening up again. And we thought, okay, well, let's go back to South Africa because I'd really like an opportunity to give it a crack, see if I can make the team. And as this international thing opens up, I'd really like to have a go at that. And then it obviously did open up. We went to the Barcelona Olympics in 92, but we were all just kind of training as a traveling team. We obviously couldn't participate because we'd missed the qualification cycle. But my mates, I was sitting at Barcelona in 92, and my mates from my London club were actually playing in the tournaments. I'm thinking, wow, that would be really cool to play in this. Anyway, so fast forward, and then 92, we played in, then we got in the qualification cycle, ended up playing All Africa Games. The African winners represent Africa at the Olympics, so that qualified us for the Olympics. played in the World Cup in 94 in Sydney. And along the way, we played multiple series. So kind of just that's how my career evolved. And in 92, actually, so ice hockey actually also opened up. So I ended up playing a world championship. It happened at the Carlton Centre in Johannesburg, actually. We played in ice hockey is two massive ladders. So if you imagine Pool A, Group A is Canada, US, Russia, all the best in the world. We kind of Pool C, Group B. So we're a long way down the ladder. But we played against Turkey and Greece and Luxembourg, and it was great. Got a couple
places
of
where the sun shines in Pool D.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it kind of was also just a journey.
Yeah, I've got something interesting, because obviously that 1996 South African team was quite an incredible team. We've had Ilana Meyer and Penny Haynes and Ezekiel Sepeng and guys that actually, we came, from nowhere with a couple of medals. What was it like being part of that team? Who was the initiators, the leaders, etc.?
I've just got goosebumps again now. It's very, anybody that's been to that experience, it's very difficult to describe. And that's part of it. Actually, it kind of is the forerunner to what I did in business, and we can talk about that later. But that Olympic Games, so 92, if you may recall, it was a long time ago now, but South Africa didn't have the official flag yet, so we had competed under the Noxa flag, and Ilana Meyer ran there, and a couple of other people competed there. 1996 was the first time officially South Africa was back. So you can imagine as hockey players, you don't live in the limelight like rugby guys do. I think the biggest crowd I ever played in front of them was probably about 30,000 people in India. But when you're playing in South Africa, you don't really get big crowds like that. At the Atlanta Games, part of the opening ceremony, we walked in as the first time the official team under the official flag. There's 100,000 people in the stadium and just went mad for South Africa. And it was unbelievable. And as you said, there's legends of South Africa, other sports standing right, we shoulder to shoulder with those people. But then you walk onto the field as part of their opening ceremony, and there's, the dream team there's these dream team basketballers standing right next to us, and superstar tennis players from all over the world. And it was just unbelievable experience. And part of the lead up to that is, you travel as the entire collective team, and we went up to Pretoria and met Nelson Mandela before we all flew out, and it's just a phenomenal experience. Yeah. And from a results point of view, we actually, we think we drew a game against Great Britain. We got some good draws. We drew against Aussie. We got some really good points out of where we shouldn't have got points. Well, not shouldn't have. People didn't expect, because it was our first games back. And then we kind of made a bit of a mess of our Great Britain game and lost points there. So we ended up in the bottom four. So there's 12 teams there. But I think a good result would have been middle four for us. But anyway, it was I can go on for ages about that experience. Unbelievable.
I thought you went as a mountain bike rider. That's what you told me.
Yeah, we have to get to that story.
Go on, tell us.
We used to do a bit of mountain biking together, and he used to beat me up the hills. And he told me that he was Lance Armstrong, but I know he's and then I said to him, no, you're definitely not, because you're on a dirt road. And then he said he was Barry Stander, and he said he used to get what they call a speed pill. He had a pill that helped him up the hill.
So it's the vitamin B injections, maybe again.
I still think that's the biggest opportunity in sports is the pre-season training pill. You can skip those first 8 weeks and just take the tablet and you're ready to go.
If I had those in my career, that would have been lovely, Wayne, take us a little bit through, because it's a very topical subject at the moment, is retirement for professional rugby players. And then, in short, what the hell do we do afterwards? How did you make the decision, and what happened?
Yeah. So, I think everything comes to an end, and I think we were very much part of a semi-professional era. And I still recall Ian Mack telling us that we had to do gym on Wednesdays, and we were being paid, but golf day was Wednesday. So the gym never really made it to the fore. And I think we were actually very lucky, I think, in a way that we were part of that era. But I always remember telling the likes of Craig Jamieson and them that they built the stadium so that we could have people that they could pay for us to play. So we were very fortunate to be paid to play. And I think, for me, if I had to kind of single out like a few stories of my kind of retirement, I was playing for Cardiff in Wales. And I was really there collecting some cash, if I had to be 100% honest. So my heart wasn't in it. And it wasn't a lot of cash, but it was money in those days, from a professional perspective. And I phoned a mentor of mine, Gavin Virigis, and I said to him, Gav, like, really at a stage where I think it's time up. And he gave me good advice. He just said, Wayne, he said, the year that you make up, if you stay on another year and you just go through the motions and you make some money, the year that you put into business, you will make, 10x at the end, or even a lot more. And for me, I'll never forget this. And I swore I'd never play, because I think my body was pretty much ruined at that stage. But I literally took all my gear off, walked out of the change room, and I said, that was it. I'm over. I think I did play 20 minutes a Legends match, but for me, the chapter was over and done. And I think, to answer your question around transition, and I must say we started a mentorship program with the Sharks after I'd finished, because I think it's a challenge. It's not an easy thing to be, a professional sportsman, everything being thrown at you, airplane tickets booked, training schedule given, everything that you get in a professional sporting environment comes to an abrupt end, and the next month that salary check isn't there. And I'll never forget this. I used to give my lady that used to cut my hair some tickets for rugby, and I went along and she used to cut my hair for free. And I went to have a haircut, and I sat down, had my hair cut. She said, that'll be 200 Rand. And I went, sorry?
What?
I didn't bring my wallet. So I had to shoot out to the car and go to get some cash and paid her for my haircut. So I think that was a wake-up call of the harsh reality that it's over. And it's time to knuckle down and get into the world of something else.
That and your golf that you have to pay for.
True story. Yeah. No more free. No, I thought the haircut was, I was at least giving something back. So she obviously thought I wasn't going to get any more tickets, which is another thing. I think ever since I've retired, everyone thinks I'm a ticket office, because everyone, I don't know, thinks you've got access to all these tickets. And I say to them, like, I only get 2, but let me see what I can do.
Gary, so the transition from you, from sport, I assume most of your hockey was still more amateur driven. So did you sort of work and start to do business while you were playing, or was there a transition moment for you as well?
No, I was going to say we didn't have the luxury of being semi-pro. So we paid for a lot of it. But the bigger tournaments like the Olympics, and then obviously that's all subsidized. But yeah, so I was very fortunate. Prior to the Olympics, I spent 6 years as a human resources manager at Spa, actually in Natal. And the leadership group there were unbelievable, very supportive. The CEO, a guy called Graham O'Connor, very sporty guy, totally supportive of sport. My boss, everybody there, the leadership were just totally supportive of sport. So they were very happy with me going away and training. But it got to a point where it got too much. So I needed to pack it in to really, I mean, I knew it was because we'd missed out on a couple of years through isolation. It was my only crack at it. I knew I wasn't going to go on to the next Olympics. So kind of packed that all in, did the best I could for 96. And then along the way, I wasn't sure. So what happened was quite interesting that at the 96 Olympic Games, it's the first time I ever used email. And because in the Olympic Village, there's always these sponsors that provide all the latest gizmos to play with and that. And I think it was AT&T or whoever it was, a big American company, had put email in a big area that you could. I didn't have any mates, or my parents at home didn't have email at the time. But I went in and I played with this thing. I sent an email, and there was a kind of a fans at whatever type of address. And then people on the other side would send emails back to you the next day. So, and I found that absolutely fascinating. First time I'd ever played with email. And then, we'd kind of, because I was going back to South Africa, I didn't really know what I was going to do next. My wife and I had cashed in my Provident fund that I'd gathered through 6 years at Spa, and we blew it on 3 months around the US. Had an absolute ball, and then got back to South Africa.
Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. It was great fun. Yeah, I don't regret that one moment. And then got back to South Africa and realized I wanted to do something on my own. I realized I could kind of try and get back into the corporate world, and there were opportunities, but I just had a sense I wanted to try something on my own. And that's when I started doing kind of I built it actually around the 1995 Rugby World Cup team. The analogy between business and sports and how you succeed is exactly the same in terms of teamwork. You got to form a vision, get the alignment right, build a team, build a culture, all of those types of things, and everybody gets to win together. So I actually went out and bought my first computer. I learned how to use PowerPoint, and I built this pack called One Team, One Company, which was based on the One Team, One Country theme that came out of the 95 Rugby World Cup. And I kind of did that for a while. And then I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. But also, again, it becomes quite repetitive. You're saying the same things to a different boardroom or different training room in different companies. And I realized I wanted to build something. And that's when we started thinking about what can we actually build as a product.
It's an interesting, and you mentioned it, the fact that you weren't even semi-pro, and you had a job, actually before you started playing, and then, had this opportunity, and then, almost the sliding doors of having email while you're playing. And we've got two use cases here. One who played professionally and then had to start over, and one who had a job and were good at sport. What do you guys reckon is the best one,
That's actually a very difficult question to answer, because the time that I spent with the leadership group in my corporate years before I kind of resigned from that organization to focus was invaluable in everything I've done since. I've kind of obviously branched out from what I was doing at the time. Was HR, and a lot of it was actually industrial relations, and a lot of it was kind of wage negotiations and trade union negotiations. And in those days, those were pretty tough negotiations. There was a lot going on in the country. So it wasn't just really workplace issues. But anyway, I don't for a moment regret that experience that I had. And that was a great platform for me to use going forward, to lead my own businesses in terms of managing people and managing culture. However, if you'd said to me, you could get paid to play the sport that you love, I think that's it. Yeah, that's an option I would have liked.
Yeah, I think my spin on it is for me, I think we transitioned through a period where we were semi-professional. So I actually started working, and I had a business kind of towards the end of my career. And I think a lot of people did, because we were part of that transition. And I think if you had to, so then afterwards, I really felt for the people that were playing, because, at that stage, it wasn't a retirable income. I don't think it's something that you could have built. And I say it, I think rugby, particularly rugby people, were targeted for their money, because you've got some money, let's go for it. And your best mate has come and joined me in this business and put your money in. And before you know it, you've got no money left. And I think for me, at the time, I think it was better to do it the other way around. So have the experience and then go. But I think what the biggest concern was, and we actually set up as I said, a program in Natal where the groups, they actually went and worked in businesses on a Wednesday and learned what a business was about. So we got the CEO of RCLs, the Spar guys, we got the guy, all the big Durban businesses, and we got them to actually do real work and understand what it means waking up and going to work but I think in reality, the professionals do that. So these guys are pros and they earn serious money, which they should. And from a rugby context, I do believe, and I say it even goes now back to the schoolboy level, where I think schools are professionals. I like that what's it, Riley Norton guy.
Oh, yeah, Norton,
Norton, I don't know about when you left school that you would have been able to play rugby for the Springboks a year after, or in the next year straight up. I don't think your body was physically ready for it. So for me, I think like rugby is a profession. What I do feel that it's rugby's duty, and I say it like the South African rugby legends, what they've done. And I think that we do need to be aware that I think there are going to be people, because the professional era and the professional pool is so big, that I think that a lot of people are going to fall off the bus. And then, with no work experience, to now suddenly at the age of 31, say I'm going to start my career, what's your skill set? And well, I played rugby and I can talk or whatever. I think their problems start to arise, and it's not that easy to get a job these days when you've got youngsters that are very, very equipped and well adverse and have a piece of paper plus some learnings of the working world. So yeah, I think it's changed. I think in my day I would have said, it was fine because we did have a bit of work experience. I say there's a patch now where the guys are, and I think are going to be some serious casualties, and I want to say maybe your era, and I think now, if you make it and you are a professional, you can make enough money to look after yourself, but it's for a very small few. So that would be my overview on it.
Definitely echo your sentiments. I think, the pure professional era, and, people that from 18 years old, you become professional, so the studies even get pushed further, makes it a little bit more difficult. You mentioned the Gavin Varidges in the passing, and I think he's a very good friend of a lot of rugby boys, and has been instrumental in a lot of guys, putting something up, or just guiding them and mentoring them, or just being a very lekker oak. You obviously played, under Ian Mac, not Ian Mac. There's Ian McIntosh. Yeah, Ian McIntosh. Guys like that, when you transferred from rugby to the professional world, who's the guys that stood out, that you built your team around to go further?
Yeah. I must say, and I think sometimes, and just to clarify the question, is to take my career, but like the transition to the working world. I think, what's it all? Elon Musk says, if you want to be an entrepreneur, it's like eating glass. And I think I'm learning that, as we go on this entrepreneurial journey.
Sounds charming.
Yeah. but that's how tough it is. I think, I think one thing that rugby does give people is a platform, right? And especially in this country. And the platform is that, and people always say, because I'm in sales and I love selling and I'm passionate about it. And I wake up every day and that's what I want to do. And I want to help and I want to help. I mean, I think that comes part of it. But to answer the question around people that help me, certainly guys like Gavin Verigis, I mean, he is a mentor and he's going to give you a gap in whichever way, as long as you deliver and you do what you have to do, and I think that's the important thing, is that it's not a handout. It's like, here's a chance. You make it work, someone actually who helped me with this was a guy by the name of Ray van Noordwyk. He was my coach at Tech when I played for Tech. And he said, Wayne, just remember one thing. When you walk into a function at the end of a rugby match and there are thousands of people there or that want to meet you, you must understand one thing, that those people want to talk to you. So don't and a lot of the time, they're the guys who are actually paying for you to be there. So don't go to the corner of the room and drink 5 beers with your mates. Go and connect with them. Go and meet them. Go and talk to them. And I think that's really what was a good lesson that I learned, because at the end of the day, it's always very uncomfortable, because you might be talking to the CEO of Mr. Price and you're feeling uncomfortable because, are you able to talk to this guy? But the reality is he wants to talk to you, and if you can flip that, it certainly made a massive difference for me. And I was one of the guys that would run to the corner and have a few beers. So I had to put myself out there a bit, which has certainly helped me a lot in what I do today. And I think, like anything, I suppose you will learn all through the process. But I don't think you can do it without people. And I'm a strong advocate for relationships. I'm a firm believer that relationships is what makes you happy. And then I saw a TED talk, which they've done a talk on it, that the single biggest thing that makes people happy is relationships, which is something that I cherish. And I think, a lot of those relationships that I've spoken on would be there for life for me, because it's a mutual relationship.
So just to confirm, as I know you, Wayne, you're very good at developing those relationships and network with those CEOs, but equally you're very good at going to the corner and having 5 beers with your mates. So you've developed both skills.
So they're not mutually exclusive. You need some beers to talk to those people.
Now, I want to go back to that eating glass metaphor, which I think is fascinating, because I spent most of my life in that phase, and it's always a challenge. Gary, you transitioned to that, left sport, left the corporate world, and transitioned to the eating glass phase. Tell us a little bit what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, I've been eating glass for 30 years now. It never ends, does it? It was a natural evolution that happened. So I was doing that kind of corporate training, and then I was very lucky. I so much about what you do in sport and in life and entrepreneurship is about luck. You got to have some lucky breaks. So I, at the time that I was doing my corporate training, some friends of mine came back from London. They'd spent a couple of years doing, and in fact, so if I went back, my training partner, my roommate in Atlanta, was one of my best friends in the world, and he went off to London as a consultant. A very strong computer science guy. He came back to South Africa, and just about the same time I was thinking about what should we do next. Another mate came back. These are two very technical guys, which is great because I'm a non-technical kind of founder. And so we sat around thinking, well, what can we build? What should we do? And this was the early days, just as websites were coming out. Everybody was building a website for everything. And at the time, some people, I know he's not a household name anymore, but at the time, John T. Rhodes was a household name in South Africa and globally. And because he was a hockey friend of ours, but he transitioned to cricket, great decision. We said to him, well, why don't we build a website for you? So we did. We built a website for him. And that started getting me exposed to what happens behind websites. And I had my 2 technical guys that I could work with. That went really well. But Jonty was so busy, he couldn't really get involved like on the day-to-day stuff. And one of the features that we built there was kind of book Jonty for a keynote speech or whatever, a speaking engagement. And he often he wasn't in the country or couldn't do it. So we spun that out and created a company called Guest Speaker, which is still, I'm very proud of that. It's still going to this day in Cape Town. We really aggregated athletes, sports from different sports, radio, TV personalities, and people could book through there. So that evolution led to the back office. One of my co-founders, very smart guy on automation of back-end stuff, started building all of our back-end of that particular website, our invoicing, our collections, all sorts of stuff. We automated in Excel. And out of that, we started thinking, okay, well, that's great for us, but how do we sell that as a product? And long story short, we started building Alchemix, which was automating financial reporting into Excel, because all accountants always export into Excel, do manual reporting, and then do it again every day or every month. So we automated that process, and yeah, that's a long story. So I can fast forward 12 years. That brought me to Vancouver. It was acquired by Sage, and that's what dropped me in Vancouver. So it's for me, and along the way, we had obviously a lot of challenges, all sorts of challenges that everybody faces, eating the glass. Some of the ideas that we had didn't work, and some, fortunately for us, did work. So it's just luck and evolution.
And the initial decision was just a temporary one to go to Vancouver, or what was the decision like when you decided to go there?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, you told me that as well. Go for it.
We finished a mountain bike ride once, and I said, well, like, seriously, what are you doing? He says, Wayne, it's a 5-year journey.
Two.
It was a 2. I thought it was 5. So I don't know what happened to that. You're obviously not very good at maths.
It's confirmed. No, so that's exactly what happened. I mean, that's why I said earlier, if you'd asked me when Wayne and I were riding bikes, training for the Sani, if you'd told me that I was going to be living in a ski resort in British Columbia, I would have laughed my head off. I said, where's that? I don't even know what that's all about. And so what happened is we'd got some really good traction with this business intelligence company that we'd built, and we started selling into North America. In selling into North America, you know how large it is. You need people on the ground. You need support in the time zones. You need all those issues. So we said, okay, well let's start. Let's get a company going in. Well, it was either going to be LA, West Coast, either LA or Vancouver. One of us 3 co-founders had to go. I got that straw because the technical guys had to stay behind, type of thing. And so landed in Vancouver literally on a 2-year plan. So 2-year plan, we arrived with 4 suitcases, 2-year plan, rented a place, and I recruited a team in Vancouver. And the idea was to build out the business development across North America and provide some local support in the local times. Within those 2 years, about 18 months in, Sage came along and acquired the whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel. And part of that, we had a 3-year earnout. That earnout, I had to stay in Sage, in Vancouver, in Richmond. Yeah, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. Then our kids were just about finished school. Okay, let's let them finish school. Then we got our citizenship, and then our kids went to university, and now they're Canadians, and you want to be where your kids are. So it's just, that's our life. I mean, Wayne thinks, I always said to him, no, Wayne, I'm coming back. I mean, we rented our place there. We always had intentions of coming back. And he said to me, brothers, you will not come back. And I said, I laughed my head off. I said, I'm coming back. But that's how life turned out. So,
It's funny, I basically had exactly the same story with a mate of mine, and we ended up making a 10,000 Rand bet 15 years ago, which I lost, and I had to settle a few weeks ago because we finally agreed that we can give up on that. So very similar story.
And I just want to add that it's not fair, Gary. So all your mates came back from overseas, and then they sent you to put up the business.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, that selling to Sage must have been an insane experience, Gary.
Yeah, it is an insane experience. And I'll take it right back to Atlanta again, because you asked the question earlier, or when we first met. So this was with my roommate, and at the closing ceremony, it is just such an unbelievable experience. And it doesn't matter whether you're playing amateur, semi-pro, or pro. To get to that level, you do all the same discipline issues. You've got to do the hard work to get there, to compete at that level. But at the closing ceremony, we just kind of looked at each other and said, that was unbelievable. How can we do that again? And obviously we physically at the wrong end of a career, and emotionally and everything else. And financially, we needed to get on with our lives. So we said at the time, one day we should give that a go in business and see if we can climb that mountain again. And I didn't see him for 2 or 3 years, and he's the guy that came back and we got going in my garage on the Berea in Durban, and that's how we started it. And yeah, so to kind of, it was always climbing that mountain. And we had a photograph of the Olympic Stadium, like that motivated us to get back into that Olympic Stadium. And so there was a lot of analogy in how we did it and built it again. But the emotion of getting to that level is very similar in terms of that type of accomplishment. Yeah, we're very proud of it. Yeah, but it didn't happen easily.
I can easily imagine that analogy works well for the practices and the long day sitting in the office at 8:00 at night, still trying to make something work. So there's a lot of great analogy. But tell me the business equivalent of standing at the closing ceremony. Was it when you closed the deal with Sage? When you walked away out of the earnout? What was the equivalent point in the business journey to the opening and the closing ceremony of the Olympics?
Yeah, I think if it's just the ceremonies would be the moment. So I was, when we did the acquisition, I was still based in Vancouver, and the rest of our team were all between Johannesburg and Durban, where our offices were. And I think, it was unbelievable. The day was signed, I spent an evening in a Vancouver bar and had some fun with some of my local Vancouver friends. But it wasn't with my teammates that had come through it with me. And so I think when I got back to South Africa again and had time to spend with them and kind of look each other in the eye and shake each other's hand again, and just like that was unbelievable. I think it's that kind of, I don't think it's relief. I don't actually know. I can't describe the emotion, but it's just like you had a vision, you built that out, you got a team together to help you to do it, and that's really what it was all about. Getting together with that team that had been with us for a long time, from the early days when we were scratching around, not really knowing where we're going, trying to find product market fit, all that stuff that we were doing. A lot of people were with us on that journey for a long time, and then just getting back together with those people is like being with your team in Atlanta. It's like, wow, this is unbelievable. We got here.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. Such a cool success story.
And when you alluded that you are in sales now, apart from having a few beers in the corner, what are the biggest lessons from your rugby career that you use today in your day-to-day work?
Yeah, so I think that I don't think you stop learning. I think that's a fact of life. Yeah, and maybe if you don't mind, I'll share a little bit about my journey in terms of where we started, and mine actually started after Western Province win in Newlands. We had a massive party because we didn't win a lot before then, but we started winning a few games down there. Much the same as the Bulls, I'll let you know, but I'll keep that for it wasn't on this occasion. And I was sitting next to Andre Joubert on the way back, and I think it's the first time that I've had a gin and tonic at 11 o'clock in the morning, because that's what he ordered me. And we got chatting, and he said to me, "What are you going to do when you stop playing?" And I said, "Well, I'm still going to play for a while, but I know you thinking like that," because I think he was kind of at the end of his career. And I said to him, "Look, I've got to find something." And he said, "Well, I tell you what, come and have a look. I've got this little thing that is literally a cartridge remanufacturing business, and we remanufacture cartridges and we sell them to companies." Anyway, that's where the sales started. I thought, well, you're saving someone money and you can save, and obviously that was the start. And we I think if I had to really kind of single out what it is that can help people is solve problems. Because advice for me is, if there's a problem, there's always a solution, and someone's going to find that solution. And part of that journey for me was one of, it wasn't like there was a heap of capital to throw at something. So we had to grow it organically. And it sounds very similar to what Gary spoke to, and with that, is one thing you realize is costs play a big part in business, and managing that became quite important. And more and more important, when you grow, because growth needs money and costs. So I think, for me, there's one thing that happened a little bit later in my journey. I was told by someone to read a book, Man Searching for Meaning, by a guy called Victor Frankl, and basically the story is about a purpose, and what is your purpose, and what is your drive? Like, why do you wake up in the morning? And for me, I read this book, and I think I was 38, and business was going good, and I said to myself, like, what is your purpose? And I really puzzled over it for a while, and thought about what I do and why am I doing it. And our business is a company called Green Office, and it's kind of morphed into a business that the real purpose of the business is to make other businesses more efficient and sustainable. So that was the purpose of at the time, and through default, we had a marketing team come and do a thing, and we did that. And at 38, I'm still thinking, like, sheepers, like, what's my purpose? What am I doing? Why am I doing what I do? And very much at that stage, I puzzled a lot. I asked a few good, close confidants, my dad, and Dad, what is it? What's the purpose all about? And then I really came about, this thing of, I really like adding value, to people, and my purpose moved from adding value to people to adding value to people that produces results, and I think that really became my purpose. And then I looked at our business and at Green Office, and we got this beautiful non-profit entity called Greenable, which is really around helping people with disabilities, and giving them an opportunity, but it's not glamorous. And I think through that process, like I kind of hit it on the button that's what my role is. My role is to add value to people that produces results. I also, as you know, Flip, I'm on the Chris Berger Petro Jackson Fund, which is now called the Players Fund. And I serve there only because I feel I can add value. And if I can add value, and I say this, rugby's also been good to me. So it's a way of me giving back. So I think I went a long way around your question about, what value, what advice could I give? And I suppose, one of our mentors in business, he said, to us, we had a meeting with him once, and he said, I'm just telling you before this meeting starts, is that free advice is the most expensive. So I must say, for me, I think if you've got a purpose, you out there to solve problems and help people be better at something. And then if you want to be an entrepreneur, make sure you've got some glass to chew on.
That is such a good expression. The thing of purpose, I don't think it only relates to sportsman going into job afterwards. I think for every man, and especially young men these days, is finding a true north, and that purpose is so important. To know what you're contributing to life. Speaking of which, and this is an open question to you both, what do we do to build a South Africa that works for everybody?
You're closer to that, Wayne. You go first.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and for me, like, I think we've got to love South Africa first, and I think those that are here, Gary, love South Africa.
We love South Africa. Everybody loves South Africa.
Everybody does love South Africa. I'm a firm believer that it's the greatest place in the world, and I have traveled. I have lived elsewhere, but I haven't lived everywhere. So
Cardiff doesn't count, man. That's that's not somewhere.
that was one of the good decisions I made, because I knew that I had to get back to the sunshine. We were training the one day, and I'm not joking. On the way to training, it came across the radio that it was a record rainfall in Wales this year. And Mike Voyle, who was the Welsh lock at the time, I said to him, "But I can believe it." He says, "Mate, don't worry, it's a record every year." So that's what Wales was all about. I must say, I think we're doing well, and to make South Africa better, I think we're on a massive journey. Where today we're meant to be rights. I think, and people live in fear. So our office, we said we're going to work, and if there's any danger, go home, And I'm not joking. It was peaceful. There was a march that came past. It was fine. People did what they had to do, and they obviously got whatever the march was about. And I'm sorry to say I don't know what it was about, but at the end of the day, I think we've got enough good people to make this place a great success. And I think we're doing good. Okay. I said great earlier, because like what I see is young South Africans coming through with a totally different mindset and just the will to do well. And I must say, I'd like to just share a story which landed very well for me, and I'd love to find that clip again. But I think they were at it's at Monument in Pretoria. The Boks did their tour. Was it the Voortrekker? And Siya Kolisi sat there, and he turned around to President Cyril Ramaphosa, and he said, "Mr. Ramaphosa, I just want to tell you that we are proof that we can do it. We are from all different places. We are from all different races. We are different colors. We are everything. And this team has proven that together, I think his words were, use that diversity and difference as a strength, not a weakness." And for me, like, if we could get that right, there's no place in the world that could touch us. And I say that will always start with leadership at the top, which I think, I'm not a politician, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But what I will say is that this country has got everything, and the most important is great people.
And Gary, for you, as another South African sitting abroad, what do you think we can do?
Yeah, I'm glad Wayne said he's not a politician and won't go there, because that's where I was going to start. I'm not a politician and I won't go there, but and there's no silver bullet. I'd hate to be a politician trying to resolve everything in South Africa, because there's no doubt there are big challenges. But I think at a fundamental level, the socio-economic issues need to be resolved somehow. They're largely politically driven, the issues. I mean, obviously the corruption is a problem where money disappears and you can't invest in the things you should be investing in. But if you can if you can fix the socioeconomic issues by creating opportunities, just giving people opportunities to create a better life for themselves. And I know I sound like a politician now, but it just, I totally agree with Wayne. It is the land of milk and honey. Absolutely. It's got every opportunity. I think sometimes I don't get a sense that there's an alignment around where the country wants to be because there's different factions pulling in different directions. So going back to our sports analogy, for example, like what do we want to be? We want to be the best economy in Africa. We want to be the best by GDP. We want to somehow, okay, if everybody can get behind that, but there's so much infighting and factional issues and things that go on, whether they're politically driven, economically driven, whatever. It's just there's issues that go on that kind of, we shoot ourselves in the foot sometimes. And it's, I don't know what the answer is. I totally agree with Wayne, though, that it is absolutely, it's got everything. I always, when I come back, I always have a chuckle that you sit with anybody and, we've got these ills and we've got these things we've got to resolve. But you know what? I'm going fishing and I'm going to this resort and I'm going to swimming and the lifestyle is just beautiful. And it really has everything you could ask for in a country. But you can't look at it through a lens of lifestyle if there's the social inequity that exists. So how do you resolve that? Yeah, there's no silver bullet. I don't have an answer. I wish I did, but they are big, complex problems to solve.
I think the socio-economic thing is the key. If we can build the scaffolding and the infrastructure for every person in South Africa to have a job and the real possibility that he can give his kids a better life than he or she had, then I think a lot of the other problems will disappear.
Agreed.
Last one before we finish up. It's been an incredible conversation. 3rd of November, 2027. Springboks obviously will be in the World Cup final. Where will you two be watching it?
I'll go first, Wayne, because you're probably going to be there in the stadium. I've actually that is my 60th year in 27, so I've got some travel plan, and like many South Africans, I have a lot of family down in Sydney in Australia. So ideally, if it all works well, I wouldn't mind being in that stadium. But if I'm not in the stadium, I'm hopefully going to be in and around Sydney and celebrating with all the other South Africans down there.
Oh, it's going to be epic, Wayne.
I would certainly. The plan would be to be there. I was meant to be in France, but something happened, and I couldn't get there for those reasons. But I do say that I had the most incredible experience with a group of very close friends around me, which will always be a memory that will go with me forever. But to be there, and hopefully with our team there, I think I think to get there is going to be an incredible mountain to climb. I think that there's not many people, bar the South Africans, that want us to be there. So as long as our team can keep doing what they're doing, I think we've got what it takes. And then I think we can comfortably say that we are the best rugby team in the world.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, hopefully.
Exactly.
Thank you, gents. That was amazing. Great conversation, and really appreciate your time and effort to join us and share with us.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, thanks.
Good to see you. Good to see you, guys.
Thanks very much. Have a good one. Nice to see you guys out.
We'll catch up soon over a cold one in the corner.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.